I am the greatest. I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass. You won't do shit. Just stick and move. Waking you up and saying, now stick and move. Keep your hands up.
Welcome to a new episode of the Stick and Move podcast. I'm your host, Trey, here with my homeboy, Sam. And today we are discussing probably one of the most controversial fights in boxing history between De La Hoya and Felix Trinidad. So we're just going to get right into it. Sam, before we break down our scorecards, tell me, what is your memory about the lead up to this fight, your memory after the fight, everything? Talk to me.
Yeah, I've had already heard about Trinidad. I knew he had a deadly left hook. He had a whole country behind him, and I knew it was another rivalry with the whole Mexican fan base. Even though Oscar was born in Los Angeles, but it's the whole Mexico Puerto Rico thing. So it was huge. It's always huge when you get that rivalry, and I knew it was going to be a dangerous fight. I didn't know what to think of it, honestly. I just knew that, this is a test for both. This is a test for who is the better boxer here. Right. And the only thing I feared was, please, God, don't let that left hook destroy, Oscar Loya. He was the guy I always, one of my favorite fighters in my life. Favorite boxers. And it was a great fight. It was a great fight, man.
Yeah, bro. For me, I remember going to the beach, South Padre Island, and it was the fight that it was probably the biggest fight in the past few years that we were all looking forward to, especially because where you and I are from. And I'll never forget the guy I went with, or the guys that I went with. One of the guys tells me, dude, I know one of the owners to this restaurant. He said we can come in and we're going to watch the fight for free. And we were all excited because, it's pay-per-view. This is before streaming and all that Fire Stick hacking and all that stuff. And we show up to the restaurant on the beach. And, bro, he tells us, man, I wish I could let you guys in. It is full. It is packed. Everybody's paying $5 to $10, and I'm making the most money I ever have since I've opened a restaurant. So we couldn't even get in. So I didn't even get to watch this fight until the replay a couple of weeks later. And I just remember hearing how De La Hoya got robbed this entire fight. And I guess it just goes to show you that, you and I did one of the top three greatest robberies of all time. Half of the comments were Trinidad and De La Hoya. So it is one of those controversial fights. So you have anything else you want to add on that?
Yeah. Dude, it was robbery to me. It was a different time. You have to understand, this was a different time. I remember George Foreman even saying, you don't give a belt to the guy that's running.
Hey guys, Trey here. If you love today's controversial episode and you want to see our channel grow, please drop a like, subscribe, and also comment. Sam and I are always going back and forth with those commenters on our controversial topics and opinions, and we love it so much. So go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe, most importantly, so our channel can grow and we can give you guys the best content as possible. Sam and I were always uploading multiple videos a week, and we want to continue doing that, and we need your help. So go ahead and subscribe, guys. And most importantly, like I always say, don't forget to stick and move, baby.
He was, George Foreman was about the aggressor. Right. And I knew it was going to be a problem, especially having Don King involved, But, if you want to get into the fight, we can start talking about the fight now.
Well, real quick, I remember the lead up to this fight. I remember I wasn't really that interested in this fight because I remember thinking like, okay, Trinidad, the only fighter that had the credibility that they had in common was the Pernell Whitaker fight. I remember Trinidad dominating that fight. And you can argue that Whitaker beat De La Hoya. I don't think he did, but I just remember thinking, like, man, they're kind of similar in styles. Like, I felt like it was going to be a boring fight going into it. And man, it was anything but boring, to be honest with you. I just thought it was like a similar styles kind of fight. And I just thought it wasn't going to be as entertaining as it was. And man, I was wrong. I remember watching the replay, and I haven't seen it since then. It's been over what, 24 years already. I have not seen it. Watching it a couple of days ago changed my whole perspective on everything. So why don't we get into that? Let's break down the fight. Okay, so I'm going to post the cards here. And my final score was 115-113. And you want to go ahead and announce your final score?
My final score is 117-111.
Yeah.
It was 9 rounds to 3 for me for De La Hoya.
Right. Well, look, I noticed that you had the first round. Let's break it up by three rounds. I had it even. I had it 2-1 De La Hoya, and you had it 2-1 for De La Hoya as well. But you had the first round going to him. What did you notice in those early rounds?
It was just it was to Tito. I had the first round to Tito Trinidad. I just feel that he landed the left hook, and it was the biggest shot in that round.
Right.
And De La Hoya was pretty much feeling him in the first round. They were it was De La Hoya that was circling them, and they're trying to figure each other out. And there was one good punch, and that's the only way I gave it to Trinidad for that first round.
I got to make an apology, man. One of the biggest mistakes I think I've made on this podcast at probably the last 20 years, 15 years, is saying how overrated De La Hoya is. But I am here to rattle the cage once again, not on purpose. Okay. I honestly believe this.
All right, go for it.
My number 2 is Oscar De La Hoya.
Oh my gosh, bro. You did not say that.
I get it. 10 world titles in 6 different divisions. Unbelievable. But man,
wow.
When he got into the biggest of the lights outside of the Olympics,
wow.
It's interesting because I do think even before this podcast, you know me, I've told you, I just think De La Hoya was overrated. I got to admit, bro, after watching this fight, what a gorgeous fighter he was. I'm not talking about looks, believe me. Just his foot movement, his bounce, his jab. I could see why he was called the Golden Boy. He was almost perfect in this fight. And even the fights beforehand. I cannot look, I had him winning a little bit closer than you did, but man, we're going to break down why in a little bit. But bro, I got to apologize, man. He was a fantastic boxer. And believe me, man, that's hard for me to say because I've been negative on him pretty much after his retirement fight against Pacquiao. But watching this first couple of rounds, bro, look, even though I gave one round, the first 3 to Trinidad, that's sweet. That to me, that was still a swing round. If it wasn't for that big hit that Trinidad had, and even then, I could see where somebody would have given it to De La Hoya that round.
Yes.
I don't think Trinidad won that second round convincingly. So if you would have said, the first round, for me, the second round. If you would have said 3-0 De La Hoya, I get it, man, 100%. So I'm setting the apology right now. De La Hoya, man, you're awesome. And I think after watching this fight, my opinion about how he would have fared against other boxers might have been different too. But let's go ahead and go to 4, 5, and 6. You got it all the way straight for De La Hoya. I I had Trinidad for 4 and 5 and 6. I'll be honest with you. I had De La Hoya all the way until the 10th round. So besides that 4th round, what did you? Well, for me, you had it straight all the way down. What did you notice in those middle rounds there?
Dude, it was the piston-like jabs. I mean, De La Hoya he was like a cobra with that jab, bro. I mean, people that have not seen this fight for a very long time, I would suggest to watch the full fight tonight. I mean, the way Oscar just boxed him, outclassed him, even the commenters were saying this is bigger than being outclassed. De La Hoya he fought beautifully that night. I mean, all the way through. For me, if it wasn't for those last 2 rounds of the fight, it would have been a complete wash, bro. And it was a wash to me. That's why I was so disappointed with the outcome.
I don't want to go further into the rounds, but I'm going to say this. The rounds that Trinidad won for me, because I'm going back and forth here. I had him winning the 2nd, and the 4th, and then it was all the way straight down to those late rounds, which we'll talk about in a minute. Those 2 rounds could have gone to De La Hoya versus the other side. Those 2 rounds that I had, the 2nd and the 4th for Trinidad, all the other rounds concisively for De La Hoya. There is no argument that De La Hoya lost those rounds. So I understand why you had such a 117-111 fight going into those final rounds, which we'll talk about in just a second. But look, man, if we go back to that 4th round, the 5th round, De La Hoya wobbles Trinidad just by the peppering that he was doing. It kind of, and look, I'm gonna throw in a comparison out there. It's you could say I'm crazy, but it kind of reminds me a little bit of Lomachenko's body work. To me, when Lomachenko does body work, he's so tight that you don't know if he's making connections. And I can see where a judge can be like, are those body shots effective or not? Because, boxing is so fast. I originally thought that De La Hoya was hitting a lot of glove. But when you see the slow motion, he got every single jab he wanted all day long in the fight. And it was actually the opposite for me, where Trinidad, yes, I will say this, the opposite of what George Foreman, I think George Foreman said that against Mayweather, right? About walking backwards. Trinidad put the pressure almost the entire fight. He was walking forward the entire fight. But bro, every single one of his jab was neither hitting glove or just simply missing with the great head movement that De La Hoya had. So that's why I had a straight on streak all the way down from the 5th round going into the 10th round at De La Hoya complete dominance, as you did too. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes. All you saw in that fight was Trinidad's head bouncing back, bro.
Exactly.
That's all you said. Boom, 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 getting caught by the jab. You know what this was? Let me tell you what this was.
Right.
And I think, some of y'all understand what I'm trying to say. That boxing clinic was an Olympic style beating.
Right.
It was an Olympic style beating.
You beat me to it, bro.
Dude,
you beat me to it.
He gave him an Olympic style boxing match, bro.
Right.
Where the points, the punches, the hits matter. And dude, I mean, he just took him to school. That's a huge robbery, man. One of the greatest, in my opinion.
You beat me to it, man. I was thinking about this while watching the fight the other day, and I was like, dude, this is like an Olympic fight. This reminds me of the Olympics, where it's just about points. And if you were counting the points, you can see where De La Hoya would have, he was an Olympic fighter. So that's the kind of style that he had. De La Hoya was never really known for his knockout presence anyways. He'll just outpoint you, out jab you to death. He's kind of like a welterweight version of Muhammad Ali. Phenomenal, precise. I wouldn't even say a stiff jab. He just knows how to break a guard and tap you to the point where you start puffing up and start bleeding like Trinidad was that entire fight. Go ahead.
It was a perfect jab, bro. It was textbook jab. I mean, it was clean. It was fast. De La Hoya, I mean, the body shots that he landed. I mean, it was amazing, man. And yes, he wobbled Trinidad maybe even 2 or 3 times.
Right.
And he would catch Trinidad off guard. Trinidad could not catch him, bro. He was just chasing him. And I think that the booing that you heard was the crowd of Trinidad, but it was a textbook, clinic, bro, that De La Hoya did. One of Oscar's best performances, in my opinion, or the best.
A lot of these robberies that we've talked about, that you and I have even listed, bro, there's a lot of gray in between. You know what I'm saying? Like, as unpopular as it is to say, you and I need to watch it again. The Whitaker Chavez one. Yes, I admit Whitaker dominated that fight, but I think those punches that Chavez landed in those fights, the very few that he did, were more effective. And we got to decide as fans, we're not judges, so we don't know the ins and outs of that. But we got to decide as fans what counts more, the effective punches or, swinging and missing, but landing the ones that really hurt you. I don't know. But going to this fight, looking at your card and even mine, even though mine is closer, and we're going to discuss those later rounds in a minute, it was a beautiful boxing lesson, bro. And I'm going to finish this with this. I'm going to finish that thought with the last 3 to 4 rounds. So the last 3 to 4 rounds, I had 10, 11, and 12, the so-called championship rounds. I know you have something to say about that. We'll get to that in a minute. I had it all for Trinidad. I had 10, 11, 12 for Trinidad. Trinidad was just more aggressive. De La Hoya, he could have stolen that round at the very end with that late flurry, which I'm assuming is why you gave him the point. You could tell me that in a minute. But other than that, bro, I heard the corner tell him, "You got this. It's over." Just
Just survive the round.
Survive the rounds. Dude, those late night rounds for me, bro. If he would have just kept what he did in those middle rounds, he didn't even have to go in. He could have just sticked and moved, pepper all day long, parry jab all day long, and he would have won the fight 11-7, 117, 111, 11-1 kind of fight if he would have just stuck to the basics. And unfortunately, even though this was the birth of what he's known for, he kept on doing it later on in his career, which we'll break down eventually. That's a different conversation for another day. So for me, I could see why a lot of the fans out there, and I guess the judges, right, could have swayed those last rounds to have a bigger, heavier weight than most people did. Go ahead. Your thoughts.
I think the judges were influenced by the crowd of the booing.
Okay.
Those judges they don't credit defense.
Right.
That's why they hated Floyd. That's why a lot of people hated Floyd.
Right.
Because I think it's unfair. That's why Pernell Whitaker is one of my favorite fighters, because they're masters of defense.
Right.
And unfortunately, at least at that time, or even now, who knows? But in that time, it wasn't loved. And
you're right. Now that kind of style, that De La Hoya style for nowadays, I think would be more embraced.
Yes, because
Floyd set the blueprint. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, and so anyways, so I gave those last 2 rounds to Trinidad because that's why De La Hoya fired his trainer, because he told him to coast it, bro.
Deep breaths, deep breaths. ¿Escuchas? Oscar. Oscar. Oye, ¿escuchas? De lado a lado.
Side to side, Oscar. You gotta listen.
Tienes totalmente controlado.
You got him controlled. You got the fight. You got the fight.
We need just a little bit more. Make sure you won the round.
Yeah.
Like you got it, you coasted, and in a way, I don't blame him because he won lopsided, but you know, to the judge's eyes, it wasn't. And I think that De La Hoya had enough energy, just enough to at least finish that 12th round, and he didn't. And the judges, in my opinion, with Don King, and were just, they didn't see it that way, bro. They didn't see what a master class De La Hoya did, you know. And I think they were influenced by somebody behind, you know, the ring, you know, or the people.
Let me ask you this. Well, this is what I got to say. It was a great boxing lesson, win or lose. I'll explain. De La Hoya's fight was a gorgeous boxing, probably one of the best I've ever seen.
Yeah, man.
Even better than, I honestly think it was better than, this is going to get a lot of hate, than the boxing lesson Mayweather gave to Canelo. Okay? Canelo was a young buck, excuses, fine, whatever. Mayweather was experienced, but these guys were ahead of their class at the time, and you know, they were well experienced already. And despite that, De La Hoya gave a phenomenal boxing lesson. Now, to me, it's the boxing lessons also in defeat, because the boxing lesson that I also saw on the other side was what not to do. This was a teachable moment for what De La Hoya did. It's like he sacrificed those ending rounds, and he would do later on, to teach other boxers, even if you have a comfortable lead, do not sit in the late rounds. We're not asking you to brawl. We're not asking you to get in a phone booth, but to show a little something. He was literally, especially the 11th and 12th round, literally using the entire ring to himself, and then just sticking once every 30 seconds, maybe a single solo jab, maybe even longer. But he was literally just prancing around the ring.
Yeah.
And to Trinidad's credit, he was trying to cut it off. Trinidad could have just sat back too, but he knew he had to win the fight. And I think that's why, to the court of public opinion, that many people still believe Trinidad won that fight based on that fact. It was such an egregious amount of dancing that De La Hoya did that the people that watched the fight give the fight to Trinidad, because it was that obvious and that upsetting, at least to my opinion. Go ahead and go.
Yeah, well, I think that the people that give the fight to Trinidad are people that don't appreciate, you know, a boxing club. You know what I'm saying? A clinic. That was a master class, bro. That should be that fight should be shown to all young boxers that are getting to, you know, pursue the boxing career. I mean, that was, I think the people that are mad or angry, it's just they didn't like De La Hoya running. Right. They just didn't. And there is a difference between De La Hoya and Floyd Mayweather. Mayweather can stand in front of you and you can't hit him. De La Hoya was doing more of the running compared, I think, than what you compared Floyd and Canelo. But anyways, it's just it's the roulette of boxing, bro. It depends on the judges you get. There's judges that appreciate boxing, and there's some that they don't like people running, and that's what it fell to. That's what it fell to, and it's, you know, it's sad, you know, for De La Hoya, but it is what it is, and that's what happened.
I want to close with this. It's a boxing lesson. You're right. It should have been shown to all upcoming boxers for the brilliance that De La Hoya did, and also the ignorance that De La Hoya did in those late rounds. versions of those are boxing lessons, the good and the bad. Most people tend to think of a boxing lesson as a phenomenal performance, and this one was for about 30 minutes of that fight, in my opinion. Before we close real quickly, what did you think of the gamesmanship in the beginning with the whole Trinidad not having a mouthpiece and having security go running in and out, all that stuff?
They're so excited about being here, and the people at home, they don't even mind.
What an anticlimax, though.
Yeah, you build to a crescendo. There they go back to the dressing room.
And we believe this is a security guard carrying a mouthpiece to the Trinidad corner.
If these were younger fighters, inexperienced fighters, you might theorize that it would bother somebody. I don't think anybody will remember this a few minutes from now. But every time you think you've seen everything in boxing, somebody does something like this.
Well, were they stalling? Or did they, amid the big fight hoopla, forget one of the basics?
What'd you think
That was unprofessional, and I think it was an attempt to get into De La Hoya's head to throw him off a little, because come on, man, how many? This is a professional boxing match, and you got so many handlers, and nobody brought a mouthpiece. Like, come on, man. It just and hey, what about the 2 shots that Trinidad gave De La Hoya after the bell?
Right, I remember.
You know
that.
what I'm saying? Yeah. Like it was frustrating Trinidad. It was frustrating him. But I think it was uncalled for, and I think it was an attempt. It was an attempt to throw De La Hoya's plan, his head, or his concentration.
Yeah, I agree with you, brother. So we will leave it at that. Do you have any final words? Anything you want to tell our viewers?
Yeah, to thank you for commenting, guys, and to share the channel and to comment, and we're going to do our best to reply to all comments. And if there's any ideas or episodes y'all want us to do, then we'll do it.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you guys. Very quickly, if you guys get a message from Sam, he is under the Stick and Move Sam handle, while I am the Stick and Move podcast, guys. Like Sam said, we try to reply to as many as possible. But we appreciate the love, and just keep them coming, guys. Give us some ideas, some top 3s, some fights you want Sam and I to review, and we will do as many as possible. We are on every Monday and Wednesday, so look for those episodes. Tell your friends about our podcast and our boxing lovers as well, so that we can continue to grow and give you as many episodes as possible. And like I always say, just don't forget to stick and move, baby.
Peace out.
I am the greatest. I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick